You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Doing good. We are getting so close, right? We've had some preseason football take place. Every team has at least played one game of preseason football now. We have joint practices and fisticuffs flying all over the place. Unfortunately, we have some injuries and people getting dinged up, but we're going to try and stay on top of it as much as we can here for everybody and help guide them in the right way. But we are less than a month away. So we are full swing of draft season, whether it's redraft leagues, best ball leagues, any type of creative league in between there. Most home leagues have not drafted yet. Typically, they draft closer to the beginning of the season. So we're still maybe a week or two out on a lot of those home leagues. But nevertheless, if you're playing multiple football leagues, you've absolutely done some drafts, and you probably still have more up and coming. So this is a great time of year.
Absolutely, right? This is that time of year where it seems like always on the clock, right? So definitely definitely some really fun times rock and rolling, right? The news cycle is going crazy as well, right? Like we are getting all sorts of news notes and everything else coming out on these teams, right? We're starting to see the beat writers really start kind of diving in and providing some insight on some of these camp battles and kind of what that's looking like on how these guys are showing up at practice and what that's looking like on the part that's opened up to the media. So definitely some fun things and some good things here, and it'll be interesting to see how this continues to rock and roll. And definitely best of luck to everybody that still has yet to do their drafts, right? Our home league is drafting, a couple of weeks still, so be a good time there. Any news notes that you want to hop into right away?
I guess we have two veterans who have recently signed with new ball clubs. So Keenan Allen signed with the Indianapolis Colts on a 1-year deal. And just came out today, Najee Harris has signed with the New York Football Giants. So congratulations to those guys to find a home here for another season and try and continue to extend their career. In Najee's case, really working his way back from injury too. But for Keenan, extending his career, wanted to play one more year, and here we go. He's an Indy.
Right. And actually Tyler's got a question coming in on Najee. So he's asking thoughts on Bucky and Scattaboo now that Harris is there.
Bucky, the knock on Bucky Irving coming out was his frame, right? Would he be able to handle the punishment of the NFL? His rookie season, as he was kind of the lightning to Rachaad White's thunder, and then took over, it worked well for him. Last year, when he was asked to kind of lead the charge, he got nicked up. He had some personal issues going on. He had some mental health things that he was dealing with, kind of the first time really being injured and away from football. He's saying the right things, saying that he learned a lot about himself and that he's in a really good space right now, and he's happy with how things are going, which I think is good. My problem with Bucky is I think Tampa Bay is going to go a little bit more split than the ADP is saying it's going to be split. And so that means one of two things. Either A, Bucky Irving's going too early, or B, Kenneth Gainwell's going too late. Maybe it's a combination of, right? And maybe they need to be a little bit closer together, kind of like the Carolina running backs or the Pittsburgh running backs, in that type of situation. So Bucky's a guy that I'm kind of dancing around, honestly. I maybe hold a little bit of worry because he was a guy that I had in our home league last year and suffered through some of that. But I think that you're in a situation where if he's your RB2, yeah, you're a little bit safer. I'm definitely not waiting on running back and then planting my flag on Bucky to be the number one guy. And really, in most cases, I'm not picking up Bucky Irving. I am looking elsewhere. Maybe I'm changing positions and just trying to figure out who else I'd rather have. Right, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift. Who else is in that range? Depending on what type of rankings you're looking at, Quinshon Judkins is right there. Bayshell Tootin
Yeah.
from Jacksonville, right? Like, and again, it depends on what rankings you're looking at and how you do this. But you know, Bucky Irving uh, is not my cup of tea. Let me just say that. Now, on the flip side, I have Cam Scattaboo in a couple different leagues. Like I like his he's just a football player, right? And I know we make fun of him because he's just, run through a brick wall and a concussion waiting to happen, but um he he does deal out punishments. And we've seen these linebackers get smaller, right? They're fat, yes, they're faster, but they're a little bit smaller and they don't tackle as well as they used to back in the day as a whole, right? It's you know maybe they make a big hit, but there's a lot of arm tackles going on in the NFL right now, and you can't arm tackle Cam Scattaboo. He's just too compact. So Scattaboo's a guy that I do like, even though Harris is there. He's coming back from an Achilles injury. It's going to take a while for him to kind of get there. Harbaugh's already come out and said, look, like he's not in game shape by any stretch. He said that during his tryout, but I think he can provide some depth. Maybe I think he's probably if Harris Singletary out of the way, so he's easily the number 3 guy. And I think that Tyrone Tracy and Najee Harris, I think a lot of it's just kind of depending on what you want. Harris does not catch the football extremely well, so that kind of leaves Tracy still available for receiving work. But Najee Harris does have a nose for the end zone. So what it might do, unfortunately, is take some goal line carries or some of those carries inside the 5-yard line away from Cam as the season goes on. But that remains to be seen. At the moment, he's not in shape. Cam Scattaboo is. Cam has gotten through camp. He's not, we haven't seen any injury reports on him at the moment. And Harbaugh was always going to use multiple running backs, right? It's not Derrick Henry back there. So we were going to see multiple guys back there anyway. So I think Cam's role is pretty well solidified. I think what they're looking for is what that 1-2 punch looks like. And whether it's Tyrone Tracy, whether it's Najee Harris, I think Devin Singletary is going to be an afterthought by the time this is all said and done with, though.
Yeah. My thoughts on Bucky are pretty simple. It's pretty much a hard pass for me on the Bucky Irving experience this year. I don't really want any part of that one. So I'm just pretty well out on Bucky on this one. So take that for what it's worth. The as far as the Cam Scattaboo and Najee Harris side of things, yeah, I think that this is more of a depth piece and trying to bring him along and see, what they've got, what he's really got as it kind of goes down the stretch, right? Like if they, if they have aspirations to be able to try and make the playoffs, things like that, like that's another body to be able to have deep into a season run there, right? The problem that you got is that an Achilles injury typically takes a while to recover from. Running backs, it tends to be especially hard on for them to bounce back on. You're usually looking close to about a year to 18 months a lot of times on those before we see guys start trying to return. And some of these guys that have had Achilles injuries have never come back to anywhere near their former former glory type of thing, right? So this is one of those that Najee was never lightning in a bottle, right? He wasn't that fast back, and really was more of a power runner on that one. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like as you start seeing him in the game, really trying to utilize those legs and push through some of those tackles and push through some of that. And there's a lot of that I want to see it before I buy into it. So yes, he's there. Yes, I think that helps add some depth to the Giants, and potentially can increase some of the practices throughout the season. But do I think that that's going to eat into Cam Scadaboo's workload? No, I don't. So I think Scadaboo is still kind of the clear cut one on that one, and we'll see how that continues to play out. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, sir.
All right. Quincy's got a question for us. Would you drop Alex that's Alec Pierce for Wandale, full point PPR? The wide receiver room is Devonta Smith, Ladd, Christian Watson, Michael Wilson. Running backs are Gibbs, Chase, Brown, Amirian Hampton, Scadaboo, Jonathan Brooks.
Yes.
It's a stacked running back room.
Yeah. I like the roster, and yes, I would do that in a heartbeat. Pierce has still not been cleared to play. There's lots of rumors of a setback and potentially losing most, if not all, of this 2026 season. I like what Wandale is going to provide here for Tennessee. Dayball brought him in for a reason, right? Dayball's the guy who drafted Wandale Robinson in the second round, and he knows what he has, and he provides a very nice complement to what Carnell Tate is going to be able to do on the outside, along with, maybe Calvin Ridley. But Wandale Robinson playing there in a slot for Tennessee, very, very good. It's one of the, I'm not going to say one of the few, but it is one of the teams that did not lean into this 13 personnel with a bunch of heavy tight ends and giving a lot of run heavy looks. That's not what Tennessee is going to be doing this year. So the slot wide receiver will remain on the field, and that's going to be Wandale's home. So I like that move a lot. I would absolutely do it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either. Alec Pierce, they definitely brought him in and paid him like a wide receiver one, right? Like paid him some ridiculous money this offseason when they extended him for a guy that really has just been a downfield threat, and hasn't really had a lot of production that you typically see come with those kind of contracts on that. The fact that they went out and signed Keenan Allen this late into the process tells me that they're worried about the what that wide receiver room is going to look like in Indianapolis come week one. So you go out and you sign a veteran guy that I don't think they signed him to be that veteran presence in the locker room. I think they signed him because of what he's able to do as a possession type of receiver, and try and just be a chain mover a little bit for them. So I'm not opposed to taking Wandale on that one over Alec Pierce. I do lean into what Kevin's thinking there as well, that Wandale is going to have a role carved out for him in Tennessee, and we're going to see Wandale be able to kind of rinse and repeat a lot of what he did in New York, moving on down south to Tennessee here. So any other thoughts on this one?
No, sir.
All righty. So, as we start kind of getting through it, right, we're gonna rock and roll through some of our my guys this year. Guys that we're having a hard time walking away from drafts without drafting. We're gonna look through some of our guys that we think may be busts, as well as potential sleeper options out there as well. We've also got a pretty fun little would you rather coming up later in the episode as well. Before we do that, we do have one more question coming in here from Quincy. One QB league, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, tight end Tucker on draft. I have a hard time not going with Trevor Lawrence.
I'm sorry. I'm chewing over this. I think I'm leaning Lawrence. I think he showed enough upside in this offense last year He's got a full complement of receivers. They bring in tight ends, so they're going to give more run heavy looks. But I don't know if that necessarily changes things. So yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence. It's not. I don't think it's going to be as good as last year, but I think he can get close to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And then Quincy asking if we can start the lineup. So week one, and I'm just going to assume that it's the wide receivers, running back, and then these quarterbacks and tight ends that were mentioned here. Quincy, do us a favor as well. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button over on YouTube. But how would you rock and roll the lineup on this one? And there it is. Start one QB, two running backs, two wide receivers, and a flex.
Okay, so let's start with the running backs. Gibbs,
Chase Brown, and Hampton is my flex.
Yeah, and I would probably go Gibbs and Hampton and put Chase. I mean, it's all the same. But I think I'd go 3 running backs week one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's start out. We know we're going to get volume here. We know we're going to see guys get these touches. So Gibbs, Chase Brown, Amirian Hampton is who I would start with. I don't see any tight ends listed, so I'm assuming you only have one option.
Yeah, I'm taking it that Tucker Kraft is your tight end option there. So we'll just chalk that one in there.
There you go. And so then for receiver, I'm going Devonta Smith. For week one, I'm going Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, I agree.
I just like let's stay there. Christian Watson can be a bit boom bust. One of the 3 Packers receivers is going to break out this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is either going to be Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, or Christian Watson. Everybody kind of has their own opinion. I think it's going to be Jaden Reed. But that's me personally. So I think for week one, I would be starting Devonta Smith and Ladd McConkey. Like let's be really sound this first week and see what the NFL season is going to give us here. So that would give you Lawrence, Devonta Smith, Ladd McConkey, and then Gibbs, Chase Brown, and Amirian Hampton as your starters, and then Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, cosign. That's how I would roll it as well. All right, good question, Quincy. All righty. Before we get into the my guys and the bus and the sleepers, and Quincy saying thanks, y'all. Thanks for the help, guys. Appreciate y'all. Most welcome. And guys, again, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, help out the independent podcast there. Before we get into the my guys, the sleepers, and the bus on this one, any other news and notes that you want to hit up here before we start diving in?
Trying to think through all the injuries here. Kyle Monangai, Derek, we were talking about this pre-show, right? Hyperextended knee. He's week to week. Mike Evans is still having stiffness in his quad.
Yep.
So that's something to be mindful of. Jalen Waddle is back at practice for the Broncos. J.K. Dobbins is back at practice for the Broncos. So that's a good thing. Who am I missing here, Derek?
Doesn't have much in the fantasy relevance by itself, but I think it does have some fantasy relevance as the collective whole. The Chargers center carted off with a leg injury. Tyler Biazde carted off on that one. So that's, your center kind of going down in the middle of that lineup can be a bit of an issue there, right? Especially when you're looking at a team that likes to run the ball and Harbaugh's philosophy around that. So that could be interesting and see how that kind of plays out, right? Like if you're not able to shore up the middle of the lineup and the ground and pound up the middle, as well as that those defensive tackles kind of coming off of a bull rush. Could be interesting to see how that one plays out there as well. Breece Hall.
That's the one I just thought of too, right? Because the groin.
Yep, slated to miss like 4 weeks from what I saw. Who else? Puka Nakua dealing with some groin type of things there. We'll see how that one plays out. I'm trying to think. There was a few other ones.
Sprained toe for Emeka.
Yep, then that might miss a month. I thought I saw a report out there on that one there too. So there's a lot of very interesting kind of deals that to really keep an eye on as you come into that draft and really kind of see how those injuries are progressing here week to week, and make some of those smart decisions heading through it. Because if guys are missing that last month of camp, even if they're ready to go week 1, they may not be in full football shape at that point, and it may take another 2 or 3 weeks for them to ramp up and really get ready for that the grind of the game there. So
yeah.
Something and this is be aware of.
Yeah, this feeds the argument to why you draft late, right? There's a lot of people who like to draft early because you feel like there's more sleeper value and people haven't done their homework. And to some extent, that's very true. But what you don't have is you don't have wear and tear on anybody's body when you're drafting before this stuff happens. And yeah, it looks good on paper, but we've seen so many injuries and nicks and bruises, especially in the wide receiver position here. This preseason, a couple more running backs have gotten on the list, obviously, with Manungai and Breece Hall and going down that route. But it's a tale of caution, right?
Right.
I don't know that there's a perfect answer. I don't know if there's a perfect draft window, but Derek and I for years have been big proponents of you draft as late into August as you personally can. And this is a big reason why, right? Nothing just kind of sucks more than, okay, you're drafting your team and before week 1 starts, you have injury problems on your roster. Like, that's just a bummer, right? You go from the peak of excitement of your draft and what could be and what you're anticipating and looking forward to, and before you even get to see what that product looks like on the field, you're fighting through injuries. And do I have to drop a guy now? And do I have to, do this? Do I have an IR spot that I can put him into? Like, what am I going to do here if this injury lasts longer than a week or two? Like, it's a headache.
Right.
And sometimes it's a good headache. And yeah, sometimes you can pick up some value there. If someone drops a player and you have kind of a throwaway pick on your roster, depending on what it looks like. Yes, I understand that. But this is supposed to be the exciting and fun part, like the draft. And then you get into the grind of the regular season. I don't want to start the grind in preseason week number 2.
Right. Right.
And maybe I'm lazy. Right? Maybe I'm lazy, but that's my personal preference.
Yeah. I remember and I can't remember the player, but I remember doing some drafts a while back where literally drafted a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, and we're watching the preseason game while the draft is going on, and the guy I just drafted blows out his ACL, right? Like in a preseason game. So, at that point,
a while ago because we were. Oh
yes.
Yeah, I remember that. We were okay. Yep, we were at my dad's house doing the draft in his basement.
Mm-hmm. And literally we were watching a preseason game and the guy blows out an ACL in a preseason deal, and 3rd, 4th round draft pick just up in flames at that point. And now you're scrambling and talk about being on full tilt the rest of the draft, right? Like there's some of those. I remember one year I was in a draft with some guys, and we were drafting and watching a Colts preseason game. Guy took Andrew Luck with an early pick, and Andrew Luck retired that same day. Like, some of these things you just can't think when you're going into the draft that, oh my gosh, I got to prepare for this. So that's why I'm a big proponent again for waiting for the preseason to get done, right? Letting that wrap up, especially nowadays where there's a week between the last preseason game and the first week of the NFL season there, right? Like you have that weekend, like just draft that kind of Labor Day weekend and call it a day. So, so I'm I'm a big fan of doing that simply because I've been on those ends where just kind of get burned or watch people get burned by an injury or just some really bad luck that plays out in a preseason game. So, Chris chiming in saying that Josh Downs is their guy this year. So that's awesome to hear. A couple of other news notes that we didn't catch. Jeremiah Love, right? The Cardinals number 3 overall pick at the running back. He is dealing with a high ankle sprain. So worth keeping an eye on how that one plays out. That is an injury that can linger. Jordan Tyson, went down in camp with a hamstring injury, and he's right now looking to miss about 2 months, and may very well start the season on IR. So I know a lot of people had high hopes around him, but that just that just kind of cements my thoughts around Chris Olave even more so on that one. Any other news and notes that I missed?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Alrighty. And then we got a question coming in here. Just got a league-changing trade offer. I'd give Chase Brown and Luther Burden, receive Christian McCaffrey and Mike Wilson. Thoughts? I'd rather have Chase Brown and Luther Burden.
I would agree.
Yeah. So I'd rather have the Chase Brown, Luther Burden side. Trying to restructure it to get Carnell Tate instead of Mike Wilson. I mean, either way, right? Like the Carnell Tate doesn't. I think he's talking about Michael Wilson, the wide receiver out of Arizona.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
So yeah, I'd stick with the Chase Brown, Luther Burden side of things, right? Chase Brown, you're potentially giving up some spots there to Christian McCaffrey, right? Like Christian McCaffrey, we've seen what he can do. Kevin and I are both of the opinion that he's kind of in that wrong side of 30 type of deal. The workload's going to start catching up at some point, and I don't want to be caught holding the bag on that one. Chase Brown, I think we will see him have a very good year. So you're talking, I think Chase Brown at the floor is a top 10 back this year. Luther Burden, I think, has the potential to maybe sneak up back end wide receiver 1, but the talk coming out of Bears camp would lead you to believe that he's a very solid wide receiver 2. Top 24 wide receiver for fantasy. Michael Wilson, yes, there's a narrative coming out of Arizona, but at the same time, that Arizona offense is just going to be bad. Where we saw Michael Wilson pop was with Marvin Harrison Jr. Being out. I still think the first read in that target or in that offense is going to be Trey McBride. And so do I want a guy that's probably going to be getting the first read from Caleb Wilson, or the second or third read from Jacoby Myers Jacoby Brissett or
Carson
Beck? I'd far rather have the Bears offense at that point. So it is a very easy give me Chase Brown and Luther Burden side.
Yeah, I'd agree. So Christian McCaffrey had just over 40 more touches than the next running back last year. And even if you go back to Devon Achane, right? Devon Achane had a really good year last year in a poor Miami offense, but Achane had a good year. McCaffrey had 100 more touches than Devon Achane. Like, I understand that for fantasy, Christian McCaffrey could be the golden goose. He could be. He is also set up for some massive regression, and we've seen this throughout his career where he goes into these high touch totals, and then next year we see the regression. His body, breaks down a little bit, and now he's 30. Whatever is going on with the electrical field right by Levi Stadium and whatever goes on there at the 49ers, if you're going to buy into that, I do not want my roster to hinge on Christian McCaffrey. So I've actively avoided him as a first round pick for the last 2 years, right? Last year, I was wrong. I'm doubling down. And this year I'm going back at it. So I would agree. I would rather have Chase Brown and Luther Burden in two offenses that I think are going to be high scoring offenses and moving the ball up and down the field than excuse me, than Christian McCaffrey, who, yeah, the Niners can put up points. But if he, because of his age and the wear and tear, there's a lot more risk involved there for me. And
Right.
like you said, with Michael Wilson, you could argue if he's the second or third option in that passing game. And again, the Cardinals are not going to throw the ball at a 70% clip this year like they did last year. They are going to be much closer to, you know, 58-42 to the pass. So we're going to see a massive reduction in the number of attempts that Jacoby Brissett's going to see each game. It's not going to be 40-45. We're going to be seeing him sit around 32-33.
Right. And this is one of those that if people were buying into the Cardinals throwing the ball as much as they did last year, you wouldn't see Jacoby Brissett buried in the ADP like he is right now, right? Because he was fantasy gold coming down the stretch for a lot of folks, and it's just not panning out, right? Like the people at large do not believe that they're going to throw the ball like that. So again, just we are, I think at this point we're starting to kick a horse here, but we're both on the Chase Brown and Luther Burden side. See Keenum saying, thanks guys. Another question coming in here. Lippy over on YouTube saying they have Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra and a 10-man dynasty. They have Achane and Kyren. Do I make a trade for a better RB1 and 2? No. Give me Achane and Kyren. I don't want to give up the Amon-Ra. What you think the worst case scenario, Amon-Ra finishes top 5 wide receiver this year?
Yeah, as long as his health stays intact. Yeah.
And I think Justin Jefferson having competent quarterback play this season, I would expect him to return more to form at this point, right? So I don't want to give up, two top 10 wide receivers to go out and try and mess around with my running back room when I've got a guy that I pretty confident feel pretty confident in will be a top 10 running back, and another guy that'll be a top 15 running back on it. So I feel pretty good with that setup there.
And my question is, if not Kyren, right? He's the weak link. Perceivably. Right. He's perceivably the weak link.
Right.
And if not Kyren, then who?
Yeah.
Right. And quite frankly, Kyren's value right now is about as low as it's going to get, right? There's been a whole lot of talk and smoke about Blake Corum and if he's actually going to get more involved with the offense this year or not. So Kyren's perceived value is as low as it's been here in the last couple of years. So I don't know how you inch up from Kyren Williams. And then who do you target? Like even a Kenneth Walker, right? Kenneth Walker and his perception right now is sky high through the roof. It doesn't matter that these guys are fairly close in rankings, right? It's not that you couldn't get a deal done, but what else are you going to have to give up depth wise if you're trying to move from Kyren to Kenneth, right? Because where else do you go up from there? Saquon Barkley? I'd rather have Kyren Williams,
especially in a dynasty
for the value. Yeah, for the value. Again, what you would have to give up to get a Saquon, like Chase Brown, like. This might be the last year you could actually make a really good run at Ashton Genty. So that could be interesting. Like, would I give up Devon Achane for Ashton Genty? I think for a dynasty league, yeah, I would. For a dynasty league, yeah, I would. Maybe this year they're a little bit more neck and neck. Depends on how your reception bonuses work out, right, to keep Kyren involved. But I think Ashton Genty could push for a top three finish for the running back position. Genty, I like Genty and Cook a lot. I just
I don't know
I
what.
guess I'd need to see how you get there. Like
Right.
on paper, yeah. If you could upgrade Achan and Kyron into Genty and Cook without touching Jefferson and St. Brown, right? So you're not touching your top two receivers and you're playing into your depth. I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
Achan, Kyron, and first,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I think you'd have to get into a first at least.
No, and that's what I'm trying to think if that's even enough.
Yeah.
Or Achan, Genty a first, and like a wide receiver 3.
Right. Like one of those, if you could give up a, wide receiver that's, um, kind of past their prime, right? That has maybe a year or two left, or if you could get throw a Parker
Yeah,
Washington or
Christian
something
Parker
like that.
Washington,
Yep.
Christian Watson,
Yep.
some buzz names. Like
Right.
I'd give up either one of those guys with Kyron and Achan to make that work for sure. So plausible? Meh. You got to find the right dance partner. Is it possible? Yeah, anything's possible. You never know what people are willing to accept.
Right.
But I like the way you're thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to see. Seacom saying know that they appreciate the horse being kicked. All righty. Well, let's I think we've hit all the news notes here. Let's go ahead and get into some of the my guys, some of the busts, some of the sleepers on this. And Chad, if you've got some guys that you're liking as my guys, let's throw them out there. Let's put them in the chat. Let's talk about them. Same thing with the bust, same things with the sleepers. Let's chat about those, and you know what, maybe everybody can get some thoughts here going into the draft here as well. So who's a guy that's and kind of set the stage here a little bit when we're talking my guys, right? Like we're not necessarily talking the top 10 at a position. We're not talking those types of things. We're talking about guys that maybe have some value that are being underdrafted a little bit in our eyes, or guys that we think are going to drastically exceed their draft capital. Guys that you're just having a really hard time when you're on the clock, not hitting the draft button, even being a guy that you're looking to potentially reach up around to try and get and put on your roster because you believe in that scenario this much this year. Who's a my guy for you this year?
For me, and my guy's Roma Dunze. Right now, again, depending on what you're looking at and how that's going, but taking a combination of drafts and different polls, he's wide receiver 20, anywhere from 25 to 29, right? And we're just going to put that in the range. And I think that's extremely low for Roma Dunze. I think that there's absolutely a space where he can finish inside the top 14 and return great value there. So if you're waiting on wide receiver, I think he's a really, really good wide receiver 2 for you. And you can still pick up a very strong wide receiver 3 after that. Or if you're going receiver heavy and he's your third guy, like that's, to me, that's money in the bank. So just depending on where that's going. But again, he's going late enough that I think that what he's going to be able to do with the Bears, and even more so with this Luther Burden injury, like I think he's going to lead the Bears receivers in fantasy points. And so being able to get him at a round and a half discount at some points from Luther Burden. Some drafts they go a little bit closer together. But right now the gap is kind of crazy. I thought that he would close that gap after the Burden injury news. And in more cases than not, there's still about a round difference. So I'm picking up a Dunze everywhere I can.
Yeah, I like that one. That was a guy that I'm having a hard time leaving drafts without just smashing draft and move on, right? Especially where you can get value on that one. And I do believe that he will be that one. But since you already called him as my guy, I'll go ahead and look at another guy on the same offense, a guy that before the injury news broke on this one, yesterday, I was a big believer that he's going to return value and that there's a lot of smoke kind of being thrown out there about a potential split shift or a split workload on this. And that's DeAndre Swift. I do think that DeAndre Swift is going to have himself another very good year, right? Like this is another guy that's coming off the board at running back 20, oftentimes that fourth, fifth round type of thing. It's a guy that I'm not, when I get into the fourth round, I have a hard time not just smashing draft and moving on with this one. Another guy that I think is in line to have well over 1,000 yards on the ground, and another guy that's going to put up another couple of hundred yards through through receiving work on this as well, and a guy that you're probably going to slate in around about that double-digit touchdown mark again on this one. So I do see some really big things in here as well. A little bit of almost rinse and repeat, and the fact that he's going as late as he is, I think that he's going to end up outperforming that and definitely being a guy to keep an eye on. And a guy that you can draft as an RB2, and I think he's going to finish up in a top end RB2 when this is all said and done. Who's another my guy for you?
So as I continue to go deeper down the board here, I have a couple wide receivers for you, and I say a couple because two are on the same team, and I'm okay with either one. And then there's another one that I alluded to earlier. So I'm going to tell you Brian Thomas Jr. Or Jacoby Myers. Right now, Jacoby Myers is a little bit deeper in drafts. So, okay, fine. If you're looking for some extra value, I think Jacoby Myers can precede that. Brian Thomas Jr., I think he returns much closer to his rookie form this year. I think he's going to be on the field a lot in this offense. I think it's going to be Parker Washington that gets taken off the field with his smaller frame and his slot. He's predominantly a slot receiver. So you're going to have Myers and Thomas on the outside. Parker Washington is going to get in where he can at times. And it's not to say that he won't give you some fantasy relevance. I just don't think it's going to be nearly as much as what people are kind of banking on here. So either one of those guys I like a lot. And then my Packer receiver of choice is Jaden Reed. So I think that if I have to choose a Packers receiver to break out, because again, like I said earlier, one of these Packer receivers is going to break out. It is just going to happen. My money's on Jaden Reed. I think the Christian Watson injury history really bugs me. Matthew Golden, potentially. I like him in best balls as far as some plays that you can get deep for some wide receiver depth, but really it's Jaden Reed. So Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, Jaden Reed. Generally, I am leaving the draft with one of those three, right? And I'm really okay, depending on where I'm picking them up, with any of them. But I am absolutely targeting either one of those guys. And one more running back. I'm giving a whole bunch of bonus ones here. Kenny Gainwell. I really like getting Kenneth Gainwell late. I think that there is a very strong argument to be made that he is going to lead the Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back room in fantasy points. It's not going to be Bucky Irving. And the fact that I can get him in, the 8th, 9th, 10th round is just icing on the cake for me as an RB3 or 4.
I like it. A guy that I am really liking, and Sakiem said Chris Olave, so I'll let Sakiem have the Chris Olave. But Chris Olave is a guy that I'm having a hard time in the 3rd round, not just smash and draft, right? So oftentimes in the first two rounds, I kind of let those fall to me. I really like Olave in the 3rd, really like DeAndre Swift in the 4th, and kind of keep moving on there. So I do like that call. But a guy that I'm really looking at when kind of as my guy that I'm having a hard time leaving drafts with this year. And I love the fact that, last year he had a down year, right? Had some injuries, missed some time. The quarterback situation missed some time. Like overall, the team just didn't live up to expectations after having a banner year the year prior and making it to the NFC Championship game. And that is Terry Scary McLaurin. Right, like this is a guy that F1. I think is a guy that can rebound on this one again. Right, we had a very down year. He's going to be the primary option in Washington again. Jaden Daniels is going to be looking that way. There's not a ton of competition and depth around him to compete for targets on this one. So this is a guy that, again, I think will bounce back and be a 1,000 to 1,100 yard performer, easily be in the 8 to 10 touchdown range again, and will easily outperform where he's coming off the board right now. And in a lot of cases, Terry McLaurin's coming off the board at wide receiver 22, kind of down there in about that 5th to 6th round type of deal. So another guy in the mid rounds that I really like is that Terry McLaurin. So if I can kind of walk through my draft and walk away with Olave in the 3rd, Swift in the 4th, and Olave in the 5th, I'm pretty happy with that one, right? So those are some guys that I'm really kind of looking at and really think have an opportunity to drastically kind of outperform, and guys I'm having a really hard time leaving drafts without. Any other my guys you want to hit up?
I'll hit up a quarterback and hear me when I say this, okay? I guess if you're waiting on quarterback, right, and truly waiting on quarterback, not waiting until everybody else is picking one and you're going to just join the crowd, but if you're waiting on quarterback, my guy is Jared Goff. Okay. If you want a second quarterback on your roster, and I'm talking one quarterback leagues, no, I'm not going to put him on my guy because I haven't had that much of him. I'm going to leave him as my sleeper.
Okay.
Never mind. I'm going to leave that one as a sleeper. I'm not going to claim that as my guy. So Jared Goff, again, if you're truly waiting on quarterback, right? You get through, your 5 mainstays and Allen and Lamar and May and Burrow and Hurts, and then Jaden Daniels. You have Caleb Williams. Like, right, you're down the list. Jared Goff's coming off the board. Quarterback 16, quarterback 18. Or excuse me. Yeah, 16. They're going to have to throw the ball a ton. That Detroit defense is terrible, guys. It is terrible. So I really like the fact that I know that this defense is terrible, and I know that they have a bunch of offensive playmakers, right? Whether it's St. Brown, whether it's J-Mo, whether it's Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, there's plenty of weapons around here to make Jared Goff a very fantasy-friendly quarterback. He's done it for the last couple of years. I think he's going to do it again. So, again, quarterback 16. So you can let everybody else in your league draft one and then wait another round after everybody has one, and then probably still pick up Jared Goff. So definitely my guy if you're waiting on quarterback.
Yep. And a guy that I've got as a quarterback that's my guy, right? And this one shouldn't come as any surprise out there, as almost an apologist for him throughout the career there, right? A guy that had a tremendous fantasy season a couple of years ago. Last year, massive injuries to the wide receiver room, massive injuries to himself, and definitely took a step back, right? And of course, I'm talking about Baker Mayfield. I think that Baker will drastically outperform where he's coming off the board at QB 18 this year. Wouldn't surprise me to see this guy get up inside the top 12 again. We're going to see some we're going to see the health improved on this one as well. So I do think we're going to see a big bounce back from Baker and see him, potentially get up there around QB 10 to 10 to 12 when the season's all said and done. And I like drafting that at a late round QB and getting a guy that's going to outperform a lot of guys out there. Any other my guys you want to hit up?
No, I think that's good for now.
Okay, awesome. A couple of questions came in. Let's go ahead and hit these up, and then we're going to get to the bust. FBU asking, keep Pacheco or Coleman?
I'm assuming that's Keon Coleman and not Jonah Coleman. And I would tell you that neither one are worth a keeper.
No.
Like, if you don't have to, and in general, like if you just don't keep a guy there, and so you get an extra pick somewhere, then I wouldn't keep either one. Pacheco's just a guy. He's going to get hurt. He's already been nicked up a little bit here in training camp. I don't see him being more than a very, late round handcuff to Jahmyr Gibbs. And even then, he's not going to come close to giving you what Jahmyr Gibbs can. And then Keon Coleman, if it's I don't even know if it's a super deep league, right? Like you'll be able to pick him up off of waivers. We thought that he might emerge a little bit last year after a slow rookie year, had a really good week one, felt really good about it, and then kind of fell off the face of the earth again. And with
DJ Moore coming into town.
Thank you, DJ Moore. I kept wanting to say Diggs, and I knew it wasn't Diggs.
Right.
With DJ Moore coming into town, like they have a true alpha in Buffalo now, and Khalil Shakir is still there. That they were one of the more run heavy teams last year. So James Cook is going to continue to get his. Dalton Kincaid's there as well. Like
Dawson Knox is a very serviceable tight end as well. Wouldn't surprise me to see them run a lot of 12 personnel. Yeah,
he's a damn vulture, is what he is. But he's good at it. He's a good blocking tight end. He really is.
Yes, he is.
Good for what is it? That's I don't even. It's the same play that they've run for the last 4 years to Dawson Knox, and he gets a 40-yard touchdown every that
yes.
one 40-yard touchdown that he gets every single season. It's the exact same freaking play for the last 4 years. So at some point during the season, Knox is going to rumble down the field for 40 yards and fall into the end zone.
Yeah, that little slip seam that he runs.
Yes. So honestly, I wouldn't keep either one of them. I don't think either one of them are worth it. I think that, depending on how your league setup is, if you absolutely have to make a decision, I guess I'd tell you Pacheco. If it had to be one of those guys, but if you can just give them both back and you get a draft pick, then you're probably better off for it.
I would agree. FBU saying, should I trade Lamar, Herbert, Genty, Achane, JT? I'm going to assume that's Jonathan Taylor.
Should I make any trade?
Oh, should I make any trade?
Us his roster.
Got it. Okay, misread that. Should I make any trade with Lamar, Herbert, Genty, Achane? I'm assuming JT is Jonathan Taylor. Brooks, Mitchell, Coleman, JSN, London, Garrett Wilson, Flowers, and Bowers. And it's a 12-person standard league.
Good God.
I don't know how you got this roster you did with the 12-person standard league. Because Genty, Achane, and JT are typically all first rounders. JSN's a first rounder. London's a second rounder. Bowers is a second rounder, and Garrett Wilson and Flowers are typically third, fourth rounders. With Lamar thrown in there as well. It's a heck of a team.
If this is your roster, I'd run with it. I'd just leave it alone.
The only thing I might think about is seeing a team that has is a little bit QB needy, and seeing if I couldn't make a steal by getting Herbert, by sending Herbert away. Right, because if it's a 12-person standard league, you're getting Herbert in there for a bye week. You can pick up anybody to rock and roll with that roster. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All right.
No, that's an embarrassment of riches.
Yes. Lippy chiming in saying, do you think they could use Kyle Williams and Michael Pittman to get Parker Washington, or will I need to give up more?
I would tell you that I think Michael Pittman is going to end up with more fantasy points than Parker Washington this year.
I would agree.
like kind of a hot take, right? With how the industry's so high on Parker right now. But I think if Mike McCarthy is going to run this differently than how Mike Tomlin ran it, and I understand that we need to wait and see there a little bit, but I truly believe that Michael Pittman is going to become the safety blanket, and they're going to let DK just be the big play guy. And yes, the tight ends are still going to get involved in everything else, but Michael Pittman can go down the field, but most of what he does is 15 to 20 yards and in. He doesn't always go down the field because he's not the fastest guy, but he's a big bodied receiver. He knows how to box out and he has really good hands. So I think Michael Pittman, if him and Aaron Rodgers can get on the same page, I think Pittman's going to see a lot of touches there, more so than what people are probably thinking here to begin with. So keep an eye on the injury, right? Make sure he's going to be healthy. But I would tell you, I would keep Pittman because I think he's going to end up better than Washington.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right? Wouldn't surprise me to see Michael Pittman ultimately be kind of Rodgers' safety blanket on that one, right? Like the quick hitter, the quick hitch, get the ball out and hot route type of deal. Like I see that being Michael Pittman's role in this offense. DK Metcalf is going to be the guy to ultimately try and get down the field and push the ball, over the top type of thing. Michael Pittman's going to be the possession, move the chains type of receiver in this offense. So and Parker Washington again, right? This is one of those that you and I have different takes than a lot of people out there when looking at this Jacksonville offense. I do think Parker Washington, when the season's all said and done, is the third most targeted guy on this team, and I don't want that. No, thank you. Especially where I'm having to take him. So, FBU saying that they keep 4 and traded players last year for a first round. Okay. Yep. That makes sense on how that roster came to be. So,
I think it's nasty.
It is.
That roster is nasty.
Yeah.
If anything, right? Like maybe another bolstering pick. Like if you could, I would give up JSN for Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay. Yeah, I would see that.
Right. So I would do that. I don't think you necessarily need to package it with anything. I think a lot of people have JSN rated ahead of St. Brown this year. I do not. I think St. Brown is ahead of JSN. So maybe that. Drake London scares me a little bit just because we're not quite sure what the quarterback situation looks like. And if Tua is going to end up being the starter, I think that's going to make Drake London struggle.
But
more
Drake
so
London
than
as a wide receiver too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take Drake London even with that as a wide receiver too any day. And Garrett Wilson,
and that's true. I like Garrett Wilson as a 3.
right?
I think that has sneaky upside. I like that a lot.
Zay Flowers is a 3 there as well. I think your wide receiver 3 is probably the best that you could get there. And if London struggles, you've got 2 guys in Garrett Wilson and Zay Flowers that you could just pop in there. What could be interesting, and this one I think could be a lot of fun.
Great Jonathan Taylor.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, we haven't gotten to that part. I might be letting the cat out of the bag a little bit, but
okay. Well, hold on to
trading Jonathan Taylor.
Hold on to that one just a little bit. I liked your thought about the JSN, trying to see if you could get JSN for Amon-Ra, right? A lot of people are going to have JSN higher than Amon-Ra when it's said and done, right? Like JSN coming off that fantastic season. What I would see is if you could trade JSN for Amon-Ra and get a pick swap in there, right? Like see if you could package that thing up and you get an extra third and give up a 5th type of thing. You get a 3rd and give up your 4th, right? So like you're moving up in the draft for next year as well. I think you're getting the better end of the deal with Amon-Ra over that, but a lot of people are going to see that where you get JSN having them higher up than Amon-Ra. So see if you can get a pick swap in there as well and potentially move up in the draft for next year as well and kind of set that up. So that could be a lot of fun there too. Any thoughts around that one?
I think some possibility there, right? And again, a lot of times these guys are back to back, right?
Mhm.
3 and 4, so you may not have to do any of that.
Right.
All right. And if they don't want to, don't feel like that's the linchpin. Again, most people have them as some combination of 2 through 5. It
Mhm.
just kind of depends on how somebody's looking at it. So they're right there. But yeah, I think that would be it. Jonathan Taylor, maybe like a James Cook, maybe an Marion Hampton.
Yeah, I like
I
either one
think
of those.
I think either one of those, I think puts a little bit more youth on your side and puts that player in better offensive situations than what the Colts are going to be in here for a while. That Colts team's pretty decimated.
That could be another one that you could try and package Jonathan Taylor for Omarion Hampton and see about a pick swap in there too, right? Like that could be another one there. Like
Yeah,
I,
there's a bit more gap in that one. I think the
Mhm.
pick swap would potentially work a bit better there, as opposed to being side by side like the receivers are. It's
Right.
just the St. Brown's a preference.
hmm So, yeah, that could be an interesting one there too. So, I like it. Alrighty, let's go ahead and head on over to the. Let's go ahead and head up to the bust, right? Guys that we think are going to not live up to their draft capital here, and are going to have a hard time returning value for you on that. So, who do you got as a potential bust this year?
Number one, Jonathan Taylor. There is not a snowball's chance in hell he returns running back 3. I think maybe running back 12, maybe. And here's why. Um, Daniel Jones is still coming back from injury, but they have a big gap in pass catchers outside of Tyler Warren. Right? Alec Pierce is still injured. Yes, they brought in Keenan Allen. I know that people are all about Downs and thinking he's going to absorb all that. I'm not necessarily seeing that. I think it's going to be the Tyler Warren show. He's really the only guy on the Colts that I want this season. So for me, Jonathan Taylor's a guy much like Christian McCaffrey. I am avoiding that at all costs. So if I'm in that position in the first round, I'm going. I, I would either go Genty because I do think Genty could finish top 3, or I would pivot and go receiver. So as opposed to Taylor McCaffrey, I'd be looking at you know CeeDee Lamb, again, James Cook, maybe Genty or Jefferson. But so that's my first bust.
Okay, I like it. Um, no, that's a good one there, right? And that's a right when you think about it. Jonathan Taylor, while he put up a massive performance last year, he struggled mightily once Daniel Jones went out. Just like that Colts offense struggled mightily once Daniel Jones was no longer under the center. Um, I I have a hard time believing that there's going to be a whole lot of positive progression there, and I think we're just going to see a massive regression overall from the Colts. So I like that call. Um, guys that I've been kind of looking at potential busts, and I kind of keep going back and forth between a few of them. Yeah, this is a guy that you mentioned earlier in reference to one of your my guys, and one of the guys that I'm having a hard time drafting is Bucky Irving on this one, right? Like dealt with the dealt with several injuries last year, dealt with a lot of the several different issues on this one. The even though he's been a full go and he's been at practice, all of that, it's not going to surprise me if we ultimately see pretty close to a 50-50 split between him and we really see a true running back by committee on this one. So I have a hard time drafting him as a top 24 running back. Some of that could be because I got burned by him in a few different spots last year with that, but I'm having a hard time believing that we're going to see Bucky Irving really return value inside the top 24 this year again. Any other thoughts on potential busts or any thoughts on Bucky?
Oh yeah, I think you're right on Bucky, right? We touched on that earlier. I'm avoiding Bucky. I'm not drafting Bucky. I will take Kenneth Gainwell, you know, 7 rounds later, 6 rounds later, and be very, very happy. Yeah, another bust, Jeremiah Love.
That
All the
was my
talent
next
in the
one.
world. It was it. So there you
Yep.
go, son. All the talent in the world, right? This is a situation play, not a talent and player thing.
Mhm.
So he's a guy that I am not a fan of. I think now because of the injury, he's starting to slide down a little bit, and he's fallen more towards the middle of the third round. He's still at the no out of the third round into the top of the fourth. That's a little bit more palatable than him going kind of in that middle to beginning of the third round. So we've seen a little bit of change there, but still, Tyler Algier's there. You still have James Conner there. Trey Benson's still there. The team is not very good defensively, right? Like they found ways to kind of hang in games last year, but again, I think they're going to try and remain more balanced. That doesn't mean Jeremiah Love's getting all those touches, right? It just is not a situation that I like a whole heck of a lot for the running backs right now, just with a lot of uncertainty and the injury on top of it. So Jeremiah Love is a no-go for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very much the same kind of thought process I was having on that one, where the offensive lines has issues, and that's putting it kindly. This is a team that's not going to be very good. Yeah, there's a reason that they didn't necessarily go out and try and replace quarterback on this one, because I firmly believe they think that they're going to be at a position to be able to draft very highly again in the 2027 draft. So yeah, a lot of different kind of factors playing into that one, but I do think that Jeremiah Love was going to have a hard time returning value at running back 14, where he's coming off the board. Another guy that I'm having a hard time kind of getting behind and really buying into where he's coming off the board. And this one pains me to say, because of, you know, hometown team spent a lot of capital to bring him in, and that's Jalen Waddle. I'm having a hard time kind of buying where he's coming off the board right now at wide receiver 17 as a third round, or as an early fourth round pick on this one. I do believe that that there's not going to be a huge separation in the overall receiving work that gets done between Jalen Waddle and Cortland Sutton. I think when it gets into the red zone type of thing, Cortland Sutton's going to see far more of that work there. So I would temper the expectations on Jalen Waddle. I'm just having a hard time buying into the fact that we're going to see Jalen Waddle really outperform that and bring that to bring that to pass, right? This is also one of those that I think we're going to see some different things with how the Broncos manage Bo Nix, right? Returning from the injury on this one, right? Bo Nix got up there due to the pass volume, right? Like 600 pass attempts last year. I think we see that dial back a little bit again. I think we see more of a pronounced attention to the run game in the Sean Payton offense. So I think we're going to see some things a little bit different, and I have a hard time believing that we're going to see him, Jalen Waddle, really return that value where he's coming off the board. Any other thoughts on this one?
So I like Jalen Waddle. The problem is I like a lot of the receivers just a little bit more that are going in that same area.
Okay.
Like I like Garrett Wilson just a little bit more. I like Emeka Mbuka more. I like Terry McLaurin more. I like Luther Burden more. So that's my problem, right? Like they're all bunched up right there.
And
But if
all
I'm
of those,
having a pick,
yeah, and all those
right,
guys you mentioned just are going,
just after,
you
right?
just after him, almost a round after in some cases.
So it just, it's not that I don't like Jalen Waddle. I just happen to like these other guys a little bit more. And
Right.
and because of that, I don't have a whole lot. I really thought that I'd be drafting quite a bit of him after the trade happened and I got a chance to digest everything. But I think everyone else was kind of thinking the same thing I was. So I'd agree. I'll punt, and then if I have a chance to grab Sutton later on, maybe I grab Sutton. But I can get behind it. It's hard for me to say bust, so I don't know that I would personally go that far. But I mean, I just listed 4 guys right around him that I would rather have. So it definitely has to be in the right situation. Like I like him more than Jameson Williams. Like that's where my cutoff is.
Yeah. And for me, it's really where he's going, right? I think he's going a round too early, and he's going to have a hard time returning that value where it is, right?
Get
If you
that.
were
You get him in
going
the 5th, you feel a lot better about it than
right,
having to pay any type of 4th round price. I
right.
could see that.
So, and I think that's where that's factored into the simple fact that when I'm looking at the 4th round, there's a whole lot of players I would rather take there, right? There's even a lot of players getting into that 5th round that I'd rather take there. And so that's where that starts kind of coming into play, that I think that the value is inflated on this one. And I'm not buying that inflated value on this. So, and I think that he's going to have a hard time living up to those, that draft capital and the expectations around that. So, and that mind, I think that there's a lot of people that are going to be upset with having spent a 3rd or 4th round pick on Jalen Waddle and be extremely frustrated by that option there. So that's where that's coming from. Any other busts that you want to hit up?
So I have one where I don't know that he's going to be a bust in how he finishes the season, but I think he's going to be a bust in how he makes you feel on your roster, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yep.
All right, and that's T. Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that T. Higgins will finish in the middle to top end of wide receiver 2 territory. I do think that, but I think for T. Higgins to get there, it's too many peaks and valleys for a guy that we're taking off the board at the wide receiver 16 overall and 32 overall. So very back end of the 3rd round. Maybe you get him at the beginning of the 4th, right? But I think either way, there's not enough consistency with T. Higgins for me to feel really good about that being my wide receiver 2 going in. It's just too volatile. Like the peak weeks, even if Chase doesn't play, are not going to be week winning weeks on his own necessarily, right? He's not that type of player. Even though he can absolutely put together a top 3, top 5, even a number 1 overall performance for a week, it's not going to be light years ahead of the next guy in any situation. So T. Higgins is a guy that I have on that list for how I would feel about him on my roster. Not necessarily the total performance I get, but from a week-to-week performance, he's going to lose you some weeks. And I don't know that I actively want to draft a guy that I think, okay, he's going to lose me some weeks. I would rather have Tedderone McMillan in an offense that's not as high powered, but a young ascending wide receiver, just eclipsed 1,000 yards last year. If you believe at all that Bryce Young is going to continue to factor into that and just feed him the football, I feel like you get more consistency in 2026 looking at Tet McMillan as opposed to a T. Higgins, and they're going back-to-back picks basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I would pivot on that.
Okay, I like it. FBU chimed in saying the JT is a beast. If it weren't for Jones going down, JT would be number 1 instead of 3, though. Maybe
The likelihood of him having 3 games with 3 touchdowns again is extremely unlikely. So you got to figure his touchdown regression is going to be real.
Mm-hmm.
On top of the fact that the Colts lost 2 pieces to their offensive line. So his yards per carry most likely is going to go down. Maybe he sees a couple more receptions to buffer that out slightly. I just don't think it's going to be enough. And yeah, in a different offense, yes, JT absolutely is a beast. I just don't like what the Colts did this offseason at all. And so I have a hard time buying into what that offense is going to be when all I saw was regression with what they lost and extremely minimal, if any, real additions to that offense.
Yeah, I like it. Let's go ahead and change gears and start looking at some sleepers. Who are some guys that you're looking at kind of way down the board that you're liking and really kind of throwing some darts at this year?
Um, let's see here. So I crawl down more. Oh, here's one. Chris Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I like Bashal Tutin, but Bashal Tutin has a little bit of a fumbling problem, or at least did last year. And if he continues to have that fumbling problem, I think Chris Rodriguez steps up into that starting role. And there's a lot of value with that coming off the board at running back 42, 126 overall. So you're getting him, um, right around that 10-11 turn. So he's a guy that definitely a sleeper on my board that I'm grabbing a lot of different places to help just round out and solidify some depth in my running back room, and has the potential upside that he could step into that offense and be dynamite for getting a guy in double digit rounds.
Yeah. No, I like that one. A guy that I really think is being undervalued right now is a guy that made a move in the offseason, right? Going from Green Bay to New England. And that's Romeo Dobbs right now coming off the board at wide receiver 56. This
Forgotten man.
Yes, this is a guy that should easily slot in as the wide receiver 2 in this offense, right? He goes from an offense that was right in neutral play script. They ran the ball, right? They were one of the lowest passing rates in the NFL, to a team that in a neutral game script threw the ball top 10 on that. So we could potentially even see that increase more this year with the arrival of AJ Brown, with the arrival of Romeo Dobbs on this, and Drake May having another year in the Josh McDaniels system. So I think it is kind of wheels up here, and this is a guy that really is getting forgotten about. Not going to surprise me if we see Romeo Dobbs get a really kind of sneaky fantasy finish, and this is a guy that wide receiver 56 could easily get up inside the top 30 when this is all said and done. So this is a dart throw that you could get and be a flex play, be a weekend fill-in type of deal. But it's not going to surprise me if we look up, right? Like Romeo Dobbs had that weird thing in Green Bay where they're constantly just rotating wide receivers. And it's, guess which wide receiver is going to be the guy this week. And that hot hand kind of approach they did to now, solidified number 2 option in this New England offense. So not going to surprise me if we look up and we see Romeo Dobbs with 8 touchdowns at the end of the year and 800 yards, right? And I'll take that with a guy that I'm able to pick up as a late double digit round dart throw. Right now he's coming off the board at wide receiver 1, or coming off the board at overall 145. That's a 13th round pick, and I'll absolutely just smash draft and move on at that point. Any other sleepers for you?
Oh yeah, I like that Dobbs pick. You can't. Okay, thinking about this logically, yes, Drake May does typically spread the ball out well, right? He didn't hyper focus on anybody in New England last year, including Stephon Diggs. But there is not a chance that Drake May could finish as QB 3 or 4, right, where he's being drafted, and then have his number 2 receiver down at 55. I think that's a wonderful sleeper. Yes. So another guy that I think is a pretty good sleeper. I'm gonna do. What am I gonna do here? Who am I gonna share? I'm gonna share one more running back, and then I'll switch over to receivers here in a bit. Is Tyler Algier, right? If I think that Jeremiah Love is going to be on the bus side of things, well, they got to run the ball. So Tyler Algier, I think, is the benefactor of this. Again, the Cardinals don't have to play Love a whole lot. Yes, the talent's there, but they paid Tyler Algier to come in. They told him to come in and asked him and paid him to come in. Yes, they drafted Jeremiah Love, but if he has an injury and they're not playing to really compete's probably the wrong word. They're not challenging for a division playoff Super Bowl type run, right? That's not what the Cardinals are built for this season. So why not, beat the brakes off of Tyler Algier? Like, again, they're going to run the ball more. It's going to look a lot more balanced than what it did last year. Again, they had a 70% pass clip there towards the tail end of 2025. I think that it's going to regress towards kind of the league average, if you will. It's going to be somewhere in that, 53 to 58% pass ratio or pass percentage. So it means there's going to be a lot more rushing attempts heading their way. And Tyler Algier is a guy who's remained relatively healthy. He did a good job in Atlanta when given the opportunity. They just happened to draft, a guy who's potentially, the 101 in Bijan, right? Just depending on how you feel about that. So Tyler Algier is a guy, again, later rounds, filling out my roster, putting some running back depth behind it. He's a guy that I am eyeballing here.
I like that one. A guy that I'm looking at is another wide receiver, and this is a guy that oftentimes will be sitting on the waiver wire when it's all said and done at the draft. So, a guy I'm absolutely spending a last round dart throw on, and that's Jalen McMillan, the wide receiver out of Tampa Bay. This is a guy that has had we've seen flashes throughout his career, right? Very shortened injury season last year, right? Missed some time his rookie season as well. So there is some injury risk here. Not gonna deny that one, but that is something that's certainly baked into this thing. I do think we're going to see Tampa Bay run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets when it's all said and done, right? So you've got Mbuka out there, you've got Godwin out there, and I think Jalen McMillan's going to be that third guy out there as well. This is a guy that, that with some of those flashes we've seen that play out. Zach Robinson's offense, we've seen that support 3 wide receiver sets in the past. He coming from that McVay tree. I do think the Bucs are going to bounce back in a big way on the offensive side of things. And I think that Jalen McMillan will drastically outperform that wide receiver. What is he? 60 wide receiver 63 and draft pick 188, where he's currently coming off the board. So this is another guy that I think can get up there and potentially flirt with wide receiver 3 type of territory. Any other thoughts on sleepers?
Yeah, I got a couple more. Malik Willis, right? If you want a second quarterback on your roster, I think Malik Willis is a great late round ideal second quarterback. He is going to give you more of a rushing upside than what you think. So, I think that you're going to be able to get some cheap points out of that, and he will finish in the teens. Now, maybe it's 19, maybe it's 13, right? Just to kind of depending on how that goes. But I do think Malik Willis is going to figure it out and find a way to produce down there in Miami. So he's a guy that I like. And then 2 wide receivers that I like as sleepers is Deshaun Streebling from San Francisco. Right, the injuries galore. Christian Kirk is still dinged up. Mike Williams has this quad issue. Yes, they brought Debo back. Big deal. Like, there's a reason there's not a whole lot of people talking about Debo Samuel anymore. Streebling is a guy they took in the second round. They clearly see a lot of potential in this kid. I think he could be thrust into a bigger script than what it looks like here at the moment. And then going even further down the list is hell, I guess I got 2 more. Man, I got a lot of sleepers. Nicholas Singleton from Tennessee. running back that nobody's really talking about, unless if you're in a deep league, yes, he's getting picked up, but in a just a traditional, um, Yahoo, ESPN type league, a lot of cases he's going undrafted. But I think Nick Singleton is a guy that I think could end up usurping Tony Pollard by the time the year is done there in Tennessee. So he's a guy that I definitely have my eye on. And then Chris Bell, the wide receiver in Miami. He's dinged up, and that's why he's not on anybody's draft board, because we haven't seen him yet. But this guy, maybe outside of Carnell Tate, athletically was clearly the number 2 receiver in this draft. And his injury had him kind of forced down the draft boards. I believe the Dolphins took him in the 3rd round because of the injury. He's going to come back here, probably week 3 is what I'm thinking here at the moment. And he's a guy that you could get for absolutely free. In most cases, he's not being drafted at all. So he's a guy that you could kind of round out your roster, you keep there, and in a couple weeks, you're going to be smarter than your buddies, because he's going to have some flex appeal, because once he gets up and going, Malik Willis has to throw the ball to somebody that's not just Devon Achane in Miami. And I think Bell's going to be the guy.
I like that. I got one more, and this is a guy that for the late tight end crowd that I really do like, right? We already touched on one of the other guys I've got as a sleeper in the same offense, but Hunter Henry is a guy that's going right now at tight end 16, super late, right? In the 13th round in a lot of cases, almost in the 14th in some. But this is a guy that, again, right, like if we're drafting Drake May to be a top 5 quarterback when it's all said and done, he's gonna have to throw the ball to somebody, and not all of those balls can go to AJ Brown, right? So I do think that Romeo Doubs, Hunter Henry are both being drafted way below value. And Hunter Henry, right? Like this is a guy that we've seen return some good things here, kind of the forgotten man, but wouldn't surprise me to see him end the season up there inside the top 10 at tight end at the position. Another deal where I think we can see Hunter Henry probably get 750 plus receiving yards and 6-7 touchdowns when it's all said and done, and will return value on that one, especially at tight end 16. Any other thoughts on sleepers?
No, I don't believe.
Okay.
I think that kind of rounds out my list here for the moment.
I like it. Scott over on YouTube asking, who's going to be the wide receiver 2 now with Tyson out? Devon Vele, I think, is the next man up down there.
Hold on. In momento, because I have him flagged, if I can get my thing. And the thing is, I should know his name by now, but I don't want to butcher it. I want to steer you guys in the right direction. Are
you thinking of Barryon Brown?
I'm thinking of Bryce Lance.
Okay.
Bryce Lance is who I am thinking of. So I think he is going to be a guy who steps in and helps fill that void with Jordan Tyson. 6'3", played at North Dakota State. So didn't get all the run as the big conferences get, but this kid's well put together, and he does complement Chris Olave very well. So I think we're going to see him take a bigger role with Tyson being out. I don't know if he's going to start alongside Olave at the very beginning of the season, but I do think that we will see him on the field very quickly.
Okay. I like it. Fun fact, Bryce Lance is the little brother of Trey Lance.
He's going to have more touchdowns than his brother here real quick.
Very well could, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out there. Bryce Lance was a little bit banged up going into the last preseason game. But yeah, we did get reports that he was available to play in an emergency situation, so it doesn't appear to be super serious there. Scott asking, don't think the Saints will sign a veteran wide receiver. I mean, there's always that
No,
chance, but
and
who?
they're in cap hell. Yeah, they're in
Right,
cap hell. So I don't know who they would.
right. The question becomes who are you going to bring in, right? Like that's really the problem.
Yes, exactly. So no, at this point, I do not. Maybe we see after cut down day, right? That's potential, right? We see what
Mm-hmm.
happens with cut down day. Um, you know, specifically with the Broncos, right? I mean, or honestly, possibly even the Texans. Do they keep Tank Dell, right?
So I
Or are they
think
going to run with
Noel, do they? Yeah,
yeah, Noel and Higgins and those guys? So it's entirely possible that they bring a guy in, but I think it's going to be um after they cut down a little bit.
yeah. Because I mean, right now your veteran wide receivers out there that would be available, guys like Tyreek Hill. Yeah, not any buzz coming around that one. Potentially eyeing a midseason thing with that injury. Curtis Samuel's still out there, DeAndre Hopkins, Josh Reynolds, Zay Jones, Hunter Renfro, Sterling Shepard. I mean, stop me when I get to a name that blows your socks off here. Brandon Cooks, Tyler Lockett, Gabe Davis. I mean, there's not a lot out there, Scott, when it comes to the veteran wide receivers, and especially for a team like the Saints, where they're trying to get that young core kind of going there, especially on the offensive side, right? With Olave spending the draft capital on Tyson, bringing in ETN, and then having Shook kind of pan out there so far as a second rounder, right? Like there's a lot of things kind of playing out there, but I don't know that it's what that's going to ultimately look like. Um, Scott saying that Hill is intriguing, but don't know if he's washed up. That was a pretty gruesome injury.
Brutal knee injury, yeah.
We'll have to see how he ultimately comes back, if he is able to come back. So, but you're not going to. I don't know that the Saints would be able to sign Tyreek on a deal that Tyreek would play for, right? Like the Saints have that much cap issues. So, yeah, you're looking at trying to get like a veteran minimum, which, again, that becomes more of a realistic possibility after cut down day, and you start signing guys to practice squad deals and all of that. So, good question though. Guys, if you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, please make sure that you do that over on the YouTube. It definitely helps support the independent pod here. We're going to go ahead and hit up a would you rather. And this one here is pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. We're just going to kind of look through some different options here when it comes to the kind of ADP and where guys are going and who we would rather have at those draft capital positions. Do you have anybody that you kind of have your sight on, or you want me to start us off here?
No, start us out here and let's see what we get.
All right, let's go ahead and get into this one. Would you rather have a where is it? There it is. Would you rather have a Reishi Rice, a Zay Flowers, or a Emeka Mbuka?
I think I'm going Zay Flowers on this one.
Okay. I could see that, right? Rice is you're kind of a volatile pick a little bit there, so I could see that one.
Yeah, and I don't mind Rice. I don't. I think it's a little rich, right? We haven't seen him stay healthy. We haven't seen him stay on the field. Yes, Mahomes is coming back. We want to see how he looks. But I think Kansas City is going to be a little bit more run oriented than what we've seen in the past with Kenneth Walker. They're going to utilize that check down and kind of lull teams to sleep here a little bit. So I don't think Rice is going to
Great
return
value
where he's
initially.
going. At least not initially, right? So I think I'm going Zay here.
Well, and,
I
and
like
not
that.
only that, but Mahomes coming off of the knee injury, right? Like this is one of those that I have a feeling that they're going to really lean on the ground and pound and really try and lean on the run game. Let Mahomes kind of get a little bit further past the injury and really kind of test that knee out, because a lot of what Mahomes does, getting extending plays, all of that, there may be some concerns with that on how that ultimately kind of looks and works and maneuvers here through the first part of the season.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one for you. Jonathan Brooks, RJ Harvey, Chuba Hubbard, J.K. Dobbins.
Hmm.
Right? Split backfield teams.
Yeah, in that case, I'll take the potential upside on the Jonathan Brooks side of things. I don't love any of the options. I feel like J.K. Dobbins probably the safer floor out of all of those. Um, but I'm going to go with the upside and take the potential upswing on a Jonathan Brooks and see if he is able to truly return to what he was drafted to be. That's a good one, though. Would you rather have Jadarian Price or Bayshell Tootin?
I think I'd rather have Tootin.
Okay.
I don't think that the Seattle run game is going to be as dominant as it was last year. I think Kubiak and his offensive staff are now in Las Vegas. So I would rather go Tootin, where it's the same system that they had last year. Everybody's familiar with it. They're going to try and build on their success. And in both cases, we're going to see split backfields, but I like Tootin and trust that more than Jadarian Price this season.
Okay. Okay. I can get behind that one.
Here you go. Would you rather? It's a battle for team wide receiver number twos. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, Stephon Diggs. Hold on. I don't like that. Give me a second. Yeah, we're gonna run with this
Okay.
because maybe it's interesting, maybe it's not. Um, Jacoby Myers, Stephon Diggs, Cortland Sutton, or Michael Wilson.
Had you not thrown Cortland Sutton in there, it would have been Jacoby Myers. But I do think that Cortland Sutton is, a lot of people are viewing him as the wide receiver 2 on this one. I'm not so sure that he's not still the wide receiver 1 in Denver. So I'll take the Cortland Sutton route on this one.
I think I'd agree with you there.
Yeah. Scott, real quick, has a question saying that wondering if Charbonnet gets more touches this year up in Seattle. Potentially, but I think part of the reason you spend a second round or first round draft pick on a running back is you're not necessarily sure that Charbonnet is going to be available for you on that one.
Yeah, I think we need to see how he's coming back, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to get more touches if he's out for if they end up putting him on the pup list,
Right.
and he's out for the first 4 weeks, no matter what. That's going to be tough. So I don't know that we're going to see more touches out of Charbonnet.
Scott, seeing rumors that Najee's going to sign with the Jets. He signed with the Giants earlier today. So Najee is in New York with the Giants. Okay, here we go. Would you rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. or Carnell Tate?
I would rather have. Oh man.
Making you dig a little bit on this one.
I think I'd go Marvin Harrison Jr. And I like Carnell Tate. I'm not the. Yeah, I think Wandell's going to be the guy there. Like I think Carnell Tate's going to be have a good rookie year, but I think Marvin Harrison Jr. Like I'm willing to give him one last ride and seeing if he can start to fill the shoes that we all thought he was going to be in when he first entered the league.
Okay. I could see that. I think I'd actually maybe lean on the Carnell Tate side of things, right? Like Brian Dable coming down there gives me a little bit of hope on what we saw him do with Malik Neighbors, another very highly drafted wide receiver in that system. So it does predicate though that Cam Ward is and that offense has got to take a step forward. So I think I'd probably lean on the Carnell Tate side of it just for the potential upside. And some of that too is I haven't been burned by Carnell Tate before. So I think there's a lot of there may be some bias kind of sneaking in there on my part.
Okay. Switch over to quarterbacks.
All right.
Would you rather Sam Darnold, CJ Stroud, Cam Ward?
Cam Ward. And there's this one, chalk it up to maybe a little bit of a gut feeling on this one. We've seen what Sam Darnold's going to do, right? Sam Darnold's going to get you a very good usable season when it comes to fantasy production, right? CJ Stroud, we've seen him have a tremendous rookie season and struggle since then to do it. I think Cam Ward is starting to kind of. I'm excited to see what he and Tennessee can do this year. They went and they put a lot into that offense, and they went out and did a lot of acquisitions, acquired a lot of players, drafted a lot of players to really give him some weapons surrounding him. And I think that we're going to see him take a second year leap here. One of those that I think he got a lot of learning done in Tennessee with that situation that he had last year. And I think that it's going to be an upward swing from here.
I agree. I think he's got some super flex, third quarterback super flex appeal.
Yeah. Yeah. Single QB, I'm kicking myself if those are my options, to be perfectly honest. But
yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and hop into a little bit of tight end action here. And let's go with a Harold Fannin, a George Kittle, or an Isaiah Likely.
So I'm going to tell you Kittle with the caveat of if I'm drafting Kittle, I'm drafting Jake Tonjes.
Yeah.
Like towards the tail end to make sure I have the whole Niners tight end room. I just, especially at the value, like Harold Fannin had a great season, but I think are they going to be able to replicate it? Maybe. I mean, they brought in Boston and Concepcion. They still have Judy there. Like, you don't know what's going on at quarterback. Like, you could see 4 different quarterbacks start for the Cleveland Browns this year.
Again,
like, and in some regards that works well for Fannin, and in others, Everybody's going to kind of have their favorite. Um, I don't think that Deshaun Watson is going to rely nearly as much on Harold Fannin if he's the starter as Shador Sanders did.
Right.
But when Shador Sanders gets his time, and he will get his turn, then I think you see the boost in Fannin. But then if it goes to Dylan Gabriel, I think then you're probably pivoting. And I think Dylan Gabriel, you're probably looking more at Boston or Concepcion just with who he's practicing with as far as his favorite. So I do think it varies based off quarterback. So I'm probably going to go Kittle there, with the caveat of if I get to draft Jake Tonjes later on. If you're going to tell me no, I'm not doing that, I'm probably going to wait and I'm going to go Isaiah Likely and take the value on Likely and see what him and Jackson Dart can come up together with. Harbaugh brought him over for a reason. So he absolutely knows what Isaiah Likely can do. So typically when coaches change teams and they are like their first offseason move is a guy from their old team, especially a skill position player, like it definitely makes me pay attention to that.
Fair enough.
Okay, we'll stay in tight end. Brenton Strange, Chigakonkwo, or Aronde Gadsden.
Give me Chiggy.
Get
So
jiggy with it.
yeah, give me the Chiggy. And this one's pretty simple, right? Like Brenton Strange, I really thought Brenton Strange was going to take off last year, and it didn't come to fruition. Jacksonville went out and invested heavily into the tight end through the draft. So I think that while we see a lot more kind of 13 personnel with the with Jacksonville, I do think that we're going to see some issues when it comes to Bretton Strange's production. Gadsden, nice, nice story, nice production there. Yeah, the Chargers went out and signed David Njoku as well, right? Like there's competition there, and I have a hard time believing that Gadsden's just going to run away with that.
Didn't they bring in like Charlie Kohler too?
Yeah. They also brought in another big blocking tight end too. So, I mean, all of those things lead to more competition on the field. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if the Chargers are out there running 2 or 3 tight end sets as well. Whereas Chiggy Okonkwo is coming into a situation where Zach Ertz was a very, old reliable 4 for 40 every single game, right? Like wasn't going to goose egg you. Touchdown upside. I think the Washington offense has some potential, right? Like Jaden Daniels stays healthy. We can see them put up points quick, fast, and in a hurry. And I think Chiggy can be a guy that the tight end that falls in the end zone half dozen times, right? Like I think he's got the best value out of those 3 there, and he's the guy, and he's the only guy that doesn't really have a crowded tight end room around him to compete for snap count. So, okay, let's see here. I had one lined up and I forgot it. Okay, there it is. Would you rather have Blake Corum, McCroskey Merritt, or Jordan Mason, or
Jordan
Kyle?
Mason.
Okay, or I was also going to throw Kyle Magungai in there too for you.
Jordan Mason.
Okay. It's interesting. I think I'd probably lean the Bills side of that, but the I could see the Mason side if you think Aaron Jones is going to fall off.
Aaron Jones is going to fall off, and I think Rachaad White is going to be more of a thorn in the side there than what we anticipate. And I think I think Bill can absolutely hold his own, but going into the season, knowing all right, I need a guy that I can step in each week, have some flex appeal, maybe fill in on a bye week. I'm going Jordan Mason. Aaron Jones has been getting a little bit more dinged up in his age, so I think we're going to see some standalone weeks. I think Jones plays, 13, 14 games, maybe. Okay. So that gives me a handful of games where I know Jordan Mason's going to be the guy no matter what.
Okay. I like it. Scott saying Kittle to that one from a couple ago, and then also saying Burden's overhyped and ranked too highly. Interesting. So I feel that way about
Overhyped for wide receiver 29.
so. And it's an interesting take for sure, right?
Yeah. Call your shot. It's all good.
Yeah. So, any other would you rathers that you want to hit up?
I think
I like this one real quick on that Chargers deal. If Phillip Rivers was still the QB there with the Chargers on that tight end play.
Here we go. Here we go. Deebo Samuel.
Okay.
Jerry Jeudy.
Okay.
Or Jalen Naylor.
Ugh. That's a whole lot of just.
It's a whole lot of but if you're in a deep league, you got to make a choice.
Can I get Romeo Doubs?
He's already gone.
Oh, okay. Man,
I'll give you Travis Hunter if that does anything for you.
How about Jalen McMillan? Take my sleeper pick of Jalen McMillan in there.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I don't know that I like any of those options, but if I had to pick one of them, if I have to pick one of them, I think I'll take the Deebo Samuel route, just from the standpoint the Niners have a really hard time having anybody stay healthy on the roster, and so there's probably more upside for him, snap count wise for throughout the season.
You want a good week 1, and so you can try and trade him.
Bingo. Yep. Like let's see them try and utilize him through some of those sweeps and some of those running back type of deals like they used to run him as. Maybe
come on, 6 for 85 with a touchdown or 2.
Right. And just guys, I'll take a box of rocks. Like I'll take the last round pick in next year's draft for him at this point, right? Like, I'm not a fan of any of those options, but I'll take Deebo on the thought that, quite frankly, the Niners have been one of the most injured teams over the last 5 years, and they're already coming into the season with injuries galore. And there's a potential that we see Deebo move up the depth chart there. So that one made me feel gross. Alrighty. Well, I do think that's going to bring us down here to the end of it, unless you've got any others that you want to hit up.
Nah, no, not all.
All right. Well, any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Yeah, obviously keep grinding. You'll hear us say that a lot, but seriously, all the training camp news that's coming out, the injuries, just the little things that can kind of change your perspective on where you're going to draft players and what's going to happen. Jordan Tyson's a prime example of that, and he's plummeting down draft boards here at the moment, and rightfully so. So you gotta stay up to date on this. So other than that, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Please like and subscribe over on YouTube. And if you guys need any help with trades, draft questions, ads, drops, whatever, we're here to help out however we can. So at Good Old Boys FF, wherever you consume your media content.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Appreciate it. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, and participating. Really, really appreciate that. And makes the shows a lot of fun. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.